Vienna, 1921. A middle-aged civil servant named Hans walks to the bakery before sunrise. He carries a leather satchel filled with Austrian kronen, enough paper currency last week to buy 30 loaves of bread. This morning he hands the baker a stack of notes. The baker counts, then laughs. Not cruelly, wearily. He pushes the stack back across the counter. That will buy 1 loaf, and only half of one if you return after noon. Hans stands in the doorway, satchel still heavy, stomach empty. He has not been robbed. He has not been taxed. And yet he is poorer than when he went to sleep. This is the story of the most effective wealth transfer mechanism ever designed. It has no armed guards, no tax collectors, no legal appeals process. It operates silently inside every bank account, every paycheck, every pension fund on Earth. And right now, in every major economy from London to Tokyo to Sao Paulo, it is accelerating. The name economists use is seigniorage. But the name you need to remember is the invisible tax. Let us break the myth first. Most people believe inflation is rising prices. That is not correct. Rising prices are a symptom. Inflation is the expansion of the money supply, the printing of new currency that did not exist yesterday. And every time a central bank creates new money out of nothing, it spends that money before you can. It buys bonds, bails out institutions, or subsidizes government debt before the newly created currency has diluted the value of the notes sitting in your wallet. You are taxed in the order of spending. The first recipient of new money, a bank, a government contractor, a politically connected industry, receives full value. By the time that money filters down to your grocery bill, your rent, your fuel costs, the purchasing power has been partially destroyed. You pay the tax. They spend the proceeds. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is monetary physics. Historical case study 1. The Roman Empire. For centuries, the denarius was 95% silver. By the reign of Emperor Gallienus in 260 AD, it contained less than 5% silver. The government had discovered the invisible tax. Instead of raising official taxes which provoked rebellion, they simply melted coins, added cheaper base metals, and paid armies with debased currency. The result? Soldiers were paid more coins, but could buy less wheat. The tax fell hardest on the fixed-income pensioners, the daily wage laborers, the small merchants. Rome did not fall because of barbarians at the gate. Rome fell because the silent tax destroyed the economic trust that held the empire together. Historical case study 2. The German Weimar Republic. Between 1919 and 1923, the printing press ran almost continuously. At the peak, prices doubled every 3 days. Workers were paid twice per day morning wages to buy lunch, afternoon wages to buy dinner. The middle class was obliterated. But here is what the textbooks rarely emphasize. The German government never passed a law explicitly seizing private savings. They simply printed, and printing was the legal equivalent of theft without fingerprints. Now bring the lens forward to today, 2020 through 2025. The global money supply in developed economies expanded by roughly 40% in aggregate. Central banks created currency to purchase government debt, to backstop collapsing credit markets, to fund pandemic response and energy subsidies. And where did that newly created money go first? Into asset markets, stocks, real estate, private equity, cryptocurrencies. Those holding assets before the printing saw nominal values soar. Those holding cash savings saw real wealth decline. This is the structural mechanism. The framework has 4 numbered stages. 1. A crisis or political need emerges. Pandemic, war, banking failure, government deficit. 2. The central bank creates new reserves digitally. No printing press required, a few keystrokes. 3. New money enters lending channels or direct asset purchases, inflating financial asset prices before consumer prices. 4. The lag effect ends. Consumer prices adjust upward. Your savings now buy less. The invisible tax is not evenly distributed. It transfers wealth from the cash-heavy saver to the asset-heavy owner, from the pensioner on a fixed annuity to the real estate investor with floating-rate debt, from the young renter accumulating a down payment to the corporation borrowing cheap money to repurchase its own stock. Most people mistake the resulting discomfort for bad luck, or poor budgeting, or the natural cost of progress. It is none of these things. It is policy disguised as physics. Consider the bond market. When government bonds yield less than the real rate of inflation, anyone holding those bonds is paying the invisible tax. They lend the government $100 of purchasing power and receive back $100 of weaker currency. The spread between nominal yield and inflation is the tax rate. In 2022 and 2023, that real yield was deeply negative across most developed nations. Savers were being charged for the privilege of lending their government money. Consider wage stagnation relative to asset inflation. From 2021 to 2025, median wages in the United States and Europe rose roughly 15 to 20%. Housing prices in major metropolitan areas rose 30 to 45%. The gap was not inefficiency, it was the invisible tax channeling newly created currency into hard assets before labor markets could adjust. What can be done? The answer is uncomfortable. You cannot opt out of the monetary system, but you can change your position within the order of spending. Those who receive new money early through access to cheap credit, asset ownership, or inflation-linked revenue streams pay a lower effective tax rate. Those who receive new money, late wage earners, cash savers, fixed-income retirees pay the highest rate. The historical record is clear. In every major fiat currency regime, the long-term trend is monetary expansion. The invisible tax never disappears. It only accelerates or decelerates. The question is not whether you will pay it. The question is whether you will recognize it before your wealth has been fully transferred. And this brings us to the philosophical ending. Economic history does not repeat, but it rhymes. The civil servant in Vienna, the Roman pensioner, the fixed income saver in any modern city, they are the same person across time. They trusted that the currency in their hand would hold value tomorrow. That trust was broken not by malice but by mathematics. Central banks do not hate savers. They simply have conflicting mandates, stable prices and full employment and financial stability. When those mandates collide, the invisible tax is the release valve. You are not Hans in 1921, but you live in the same monetary system. The only difference is the speed of the dilution. Today it moves like a tide, slow and vast, eroding shorelines year by year. Most never see the water rising until the foundations are gone. The invisible tax is destroying your wealth right now. But wealth is not destroyed, it is transferred. The only strategic question is whether you will remain on the side paying or begin positioning to receive.